Hi, welcome back. We're going to continue on with our Lazarus project, and we're going to put just one last finishing touch on its capabilities today. So we'll fire up Lazarus. This is the string grid that we've been playing around with. And let's switch back to the source editor. I had a local friend who follows my channel call me and say, so how do you make specific cells required, others not, or specific columns required? So let's add that functionality today. And in advance, I've done that. I added here's our unit with all of our objects in the source code listed, procedures listed, and of course we're going to be playing around with the procedure that is called string grid after selection. That's this procedure right here. That's the one we'll be modifying today to specify specific cells or specific columns as required. Okay? So let's go down to that. Let's go down to that specific procedure. Here it is right here. This is the comment section above it. And this is the procedure. It's the string grid after selection procedure. That's what we're going to be playing with here. So the one that I've implemented, and which is more specific, is a required cell requirement. So what I've done is I've created this array 1 through 12 Boolean. Boolean means it's true or false. And so I did that, and now I say equals at the end, and then in parentheses I put the settings for each cell by column and row. So what I'm saying here basically is all of the cells in column 1 are not required, false. But all of the cells in column 2 and column 3 are required. So you see this is cell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And if our string grid was fixed at that, just 4 rows and 3 columns, this will work fine. Our string grid currently can expand, so this, if we enter row 4 and hit enter, it's going to add a row 5. So in that case, we would have to anticipate that and then add more constants, make this bigger. So that would go from 1 to 12 to 1 to 15 or 18. And you'd have to make this dynamically grow as the string grid grew. Of course, you can just lock that down by not allowing the string grid to grow. And right now, we do allow it to grow, and that's in properties. And let's see what we've we've got here.
A few moments later.
Maybe it's in options here. Here it is. Auto add rows. It's in options. The first option is selection, and it's auto add rows. So if we set that to false, all right, now it won't automatically add rows. And since we have a fixed number of rows, this would work fine. Okay? That's the deal. Now with this method, I can set any cell to be required by just setting it to true. So if in the second row, well, let's do that. Let's prove that. Okay, the second row, we're going to make none of the cells required. Right? I should really space this a little differently. All right. Now, I don't know what that's going to do right now to our, I think that's going to cause a problem, because when we exit row 2 out of the birth date field, it's going to complain. Because it's going to do validation, right? This is going to still trigger, I believe. There, I misspelled birth date there. Okay. Let's delete that. Fix that up. Okay. Okay. So, here's where, so we have this table of Boolean values, and right here in the checking to see if the row is empty, I should say if the cell at the computed row and column is required, is empty, and required, okay, then focus on it, right? Then focus on it. So right here is where we check to see if that cell is required, right? And I'm not sure, it says string grid is, if it's not equal to the column, and the current string grid is not equal to the row. Do we really need that? I'm not sure we do. Let's do this. Let's put that and down here. And get rid of it there. Now it's still the same, right? But let's change this to say now then begin. And let's comment this line out. And that eliminates the rest of that. That eliminates this logic. Let's see if this works. We'll save it. And now let's attempt to compile and run it. And it says what? Syntax error. Begin expected, but an if was found. If this and this, then begin. Oh, it added another end. Shh. And that should be in line with that. Right? That end, yes. That end goes with this begin. This begin's been commented out. Okay. I fixed that. Try it again. Okay. So let's look at our table here. Okay, our table says this row is not required, so I should be able to tab out of that. I could. Cursor's now here. It's going to be hard to see. Now, last name is true, so if I put in Smith, if I try to skip, I'll try tabbing. It wouldn't let me. So I have to put in Smith. It's required. And then, now I've tabbed to his birth date field. I'll put in a passable birth date, hit tab. Goes to first name. I don't need first name, right? I should be able to tab out of that. I can. I can tab out a last name. And I'm going to tab out a birth date. Won't let me tab out a birth date. So the validation is now preventing me from tabbing out a birth date. So what you have to do now is you have to use the table in validation as well. So I have to close this, and so now we say if the column is the date and we're advancing to the next cell, and it's required, right? And be required sub do we have the cell number at this point? We have the beginning cell and the ending cell. So beginning cell is going to be, that's the cell we're currently on, I think, isn't it? Isn't that cell B? I cell, oh, I cell B, right? B. See if that fixes it. So now we're saying if this birth date field is required, then go ahead and validate it. Otherwise, don't. Right? Yeah. Okay. Let's try running it, see if that works. Okay, so we can tab out of the first name field here. Smith, 1/1/1800, tab, 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 tab. Now it works. Now it lets me tab through that field. It's no longer required. If I try tabbing now out of first name, first name still not required. I try tabbing out of that, because now we're in row 3, right? So in row 3, now last name is required. What if I do back tabs? What happens? Back tab works, back tab works. So everything is working. Tab. Yeah, this is all working now. Okay, so that's how you do it. The other way of doing it, let's comment all this out. So we're not going to use this now. Okay. We're not using any of that. We're not going to use required cell here anymore. We pretty much determined that this is not necessary. And now we're going to say that only, okay, instead of having it by cell, we're going to do it by column. So on this, we're going to duplicate this line. And what we're going to do is, okay, so this is the original line using by cell. This one now is going to go by column. So we're not going to use that table anymore. We're just going to query what column it's in. So we're going to have 2 columns. We're going to use and iCol equals 2 or iColumn equals 3. Right? So it says if the current row is empty and the column is 2 or 3, then go back to this row and column, right? I think that'll work. And that eliminates this. Now we've just hard-coded the columns that are required right here. It's an empty column and row, and we're in column 2 or 3. Go back to iColumn and row. Well, let's see if that works. Okay, and now down here, we're not using that table anymore. Oh. Yeah, we're not using that table anymore. Okay. Let's save that and let's try it. I'd left it running. Okay. So now what we've done is we've said, jeez Louise. Okay. We've said that all the first name column is not required. We're only requiring columns 2 and 3 right here, 2 or 3. So let's try tabbing out of the first name field. It allowed us. Let's try tabbing out of the last name field. It didn't allow it. If I try doing this, it won't let me out of there. If I try clicking on any of these other cells, that cursor is staying right there. So I have to put a last name in. Smith, tab. If I try tabbing on a date, won't let me. It says invalid date. Okay. So now I have to put a date in. Okay. Tab out of there. Now I should be able to tab out a first name. Yes. Now I can put in another last name. Well, I can try tabbing out of that. It won't let me. So now columns 2 and 3 are required. Will let me back tab. Shift back tab. Yes. 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 Will let me tab down here. Move. No. Puts me in last name again. So this is all working, right? We're back to, and we have implemented specific required columns, and we've also shown that we can do specific required cells. So this is all good. Yep. Okay, and that's all we were going to do for today. That's how you can implement either required cell by cell or required columns, column by column. It's very straightforward, and it's just part of two things. You have to implement it here in the moving forward logic to determine if if you're in a required field or not. And then in verification, you have to do it if you're going to have fields that you can skip over, you know. It has to be able to handle that. Not so much on a cell, like we did it on a cell by cell, we had to put logic in here. We didn't have to add logic for this. Well, no, that's not true, is it? That's not true. If I had implemented, if I didn't make date, if I didn't make the date column required, then in here, I would just, in here I would have to test if it's blank. Yeah. Maybe what you would do here is you would test to see if the first and last name is missing. If they're empty, then you wouldn't require it. You wouldn't do validation in that case, probably. But that would all be handled here. Yeah. Okay, well, we're done for today. I made it short. So, hey, if you found this content interesting or helpful, give me a like. And if you want to see more, give me a subscribe. Hey, have a nice day.